In a sun-drenched studio where light danced as gracefully as she did, there was Anna. To see her dance was to witness poetry made of muscle and bone. In the ballet world, they called her the Golden Girl. Every leap seemed to defy gravity, a beautiful act of rebellion against the earth. Her pink silk pointe shoes were flawless, untouched by failure, a mirror of her seemingly perfect life. For Anna, her legs weren't just parts of her body. They were her identity, her language, her entire future. They were the wings that promised to carry her to the stars. But success, we learn, is a fragile thing. It can shatter in an instant. It was a rainy Tuesday. The rehearsal hall was vast and empty, the silence so deep you could hear your own heartbeat, and then a sound that cut through it all. A sharp, sickening crack that echoed off the wall of mirrors. No scream followed, just the heavy thud of a body hitting the polished floor. In that one deafening moment of silence, Anna's world tilted, spun, and broke. The scene changed from the warm glow of the studio to the sterile, fluorescent cold of a hospital. The doctor didn't need to say a word. The look on his face as he stared at the MRI scan was a death sentence for a dream. Permanent nerve damage. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating like smoke. Just like that, Anna, the dancer, was gone. In her place was a patient, a number, a case study. Her pointe shoes, once symbols of ethereal grace, now sat in the corner of her bedroom, gathering dust. They were bitter reminders of a girl who she felt no longer existed, a ghost in her own life. Months of darkness followed. We live in a world that celebrates winners, that puts champions on pedestals. But what happens when you fall? Anna felt like an invisible spectator to life. Sitting in her wheelchair, she'd stare out the window, watching the world move with a cruel, effortless ease. She saw joggers in the park, their legs pumping, their bodies free, and a burning envy that tasted like ash filled her mouth. She'd look down at her own legs, once so powerful, now heavy, unresponsive, and what she could only describe as broken. 1,000 times she thought about throwing her shoes away, about burying the past for good. But her hands wouldn't let go. Some part of her, buried deep beneath the grief, refused to surrender. She realized her body might have been forced into retirement, but her soul was still restless. Her spirit was still a dancer's. The comeback didn't begin with a grand gesture or a swell of triumphant music. It began in a grim, sterile physical therapy room that smelled of sweat, disinfectant, and raw frustration. This wasn't a comeback. It was a war fought in millimeters. We often see the glamorous side of recovery in movies, the quick montage set to an inspiring song. This was not that. This was the ugly truth. This was the veins bulging in her neck as she fought with every ounce of her will to just wiggle a single toe. This was the hot tears of rage streaming down her face when she collapsed over and over, just trying to stand on her own 2 feet. This was the landscape of bruises that painted her skin from hitting the unforgiving floor. There was no magic here. There was only a girl who had been told something was impossible and decided she refused to believe it. She stopped practicing to be perfect. She started practicing just to be whole again. The night of her return wasn't at the Grand Opera House under the blaze of 1,000 lights. It was on a small, humble community stage, the kind of place where dreams are born and sometimes reborn. When the velvet curtain rose, the audience didn't see a fragile victim. They saw a woman. Standing. She was shaky. Yes, her balance a precarious thing, but she was standing. Then the music began, and Anna moved. It wasn't the effortless liquid glide of a swan anymore. This was something else. It was raw. It was jagged. It was visceral. Every single step was a visible battle, won against pain, against the ghost of her injury. She didn't hide her struggle. She made it part of the dance. She used her scars as her choreography. The wobble in her leg became a deliberate, poignant pause. The tension in her shoulders became an expression of defiance. Then came the climax of the piece. She gathered all her strength, all her hope, all her fury, and launched into a pirouette. For a fraction of a second, she wobbled, the spectre of a fall haunting the air. The audience held its breath. But she caught herself. She found her center, not just physically, but spiritually. She finished the turn, her arms raised not just in a pose, but in victory. The moment the music ended, the room went dead silent. A heavy, profound silence that felt more powerful than any sound, and then it broke. It wasn't the polite, rhythmic applause of ballet critics. It was a roar, a thunderous, tearful, human roar. It was the sound of people witnessing not just a dance, but a resurrection in real time. The sound of people seeing a miracle. Anna stood center stage, gasping for air, her face a beautiful mess of sweat and tears. She looked down at her feet. Her pink silk shoes were no longer pristine. They were frayed. They were stained with sweat and maybe a little blood. They were utterly worn out. But as she took her final bow, a deep, grateful bow to the cheering crowd, she realized they had never, ever been more beautiful. Because the greatest dance isn't the one where you never falter, where you never fall. It's the one you perform after you've been broken and you've learned, inch by painful inch, how to get back up. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing for more tales of human resilience. Remember, your scars don't make you broken. They make you a masterpiece.